Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. We are three naturopathic doctors who became fast friends when we were doing our schooling at the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine. And we have decided to start this little series of educational and fun webinars to get your health questions answered. So the topic for tonight is stress and your hormones. We're going to be answering your top 3 questions. So to introduce us, we have Dr. Molly Sears, Dr. Shreya Soni, and myself, Dr. Maryellen Tedeschi here. As you can see, we are practicing in all different locations in North America. And that's one of our favorite pictures together on our trip to California this past summer when we went to meet Dr. Shreya. So we hope you guys enjoy, and we hope you all learn something this evening.
All right, so tonight we're just going to start off with an overview of cortisol. So what is cortisol? Cortisol is our primary stress hormone. It's released from our adrenal glands in response to anything that the body perceives as stress. So I like to point out to my patients that this isn't just emotional stress. This can be acute infection, it can be chronic infections, etc., really anything. So as you can see from the picture, it's released from our adrenal glands after getting a signal from our brain. So if we move on to the next slide, so we have a few ways of testing our cortisol, and this picture is a nice demonstration of what a healthy cortisol level or a healthy cortisol response throughout the day would look like. You can see in the morning, we want to see a nice peak in the cortisol and then have it fall throughout the afternoon, ending up at a nice low point in the evening, which will set us up for a good night of restorative sleep. Now this can get,
sorry.
Now this cortisol release can obviously be altered unfavorably. For example, when we don't get that peak in the morning, we'll see it not only affect things like mood and energy throughout the day, but it will even play a role in our immune system, our reproductive system, and blood sugar dysregulation. And so those are kind of the topics that we're going to delve into today. So if you guys don't have anything to add, then we'll dive into our first.
I have a question for you. So someone with a cortisol curve that looks like this, what might their day feel like?
The red line?
Yes.
Yeah, so this result is taken from a sample report, and this person's going to feel really tired in the morning. They're going to have a hard time getting out of bed. It's also on the low end throughout the entire day, so we'll just see like a lot of fatigue. They're probably sleeping okay or falling asleep okay though, because we do have the cortisol pretty low at night.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point too, because if we were to see that afternoon to night cortisol rise slightly, then we might be able to predict that there's probably some sleep issues happening if we're blunting our melatonin response, because cortisol is not getting low enough to allow full optimal range of melatonin to get us to sleep through the night.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
I'm going to have an example of that one later, so we'll definitely dig more into it. And I'll add, so this might be a person who's been stressed for a very long time, because in general, they are totally burnt out, flatline. So they might have been stressed for a very long time, and their overall production out of the adrenal gland of this cortisol hormone is just chronically low.
Mm-hmm. Very good points.
Yeah. So our first kind of topic we're going to dive into is your menstrual cycle. How our stress affects our cycles. So we have high cortisol in our body as a result of that excessive stress, and this is going to really play the biggest role in inhibiting our ovulation, or even just delaying ovulation. So ovulation usually happens about day 14 if you have a 28-day cycle, and it's really the main event of our entire cycle. So when we don't ovulate, this is when we see irregular periods and or some spotting possibly, and maybe some excessive PMS symptoms. So to give you the best idea, we're going to move on to the next slide and kind of give you an overview of your entire menstrual cycle. So as you can see, if we keep it really simple, there's signals going from our brain to our ovaries that are going to exert effects that will result in these hormonal shifts that are going to influence our period. So someone with high cortisol, it's actually going to suppress that FSH that you see there at the top of the picture. This is our follicle stimulating hormone. This is going to be inhibited and thus will prevent the chain of events that will result in a healthy ovulation. And as a result, we don't get adequate progesterone production in the second half of our cycle. And in addition to this resulting in a missed period or irregular periods or spotting, we can see an increase in PMS symptoms. With progesterone, that's usually going to look like an increase in anxiety, maybe agitation, possibly some difficulty sleeping. And when our progesterone is low, we can get what's kind of a functional excess estrogen. And this is going to exhibit in signs like breast tenderness, bloating, water retention, and possibly acne. So that's a bit of a general overview of what's happening, and you can see the summary there on the left, but that is kind of the role that stress plays in our cycle.
And I'll add, right now, with being in a global pandemic, the first time in most people's lifetimes here, we're in a bit of a global stress response. And I've been hearing from a lot of women about having unusual periods and unusual cycles this month. And this completely lays out why that's happening. When you're stressed, you're producing this cortisol. Production of your other hormones like progesterone has reduced, and you might be experiencing spotting, you might have a missed period or a late period. It's all definitely a possibility, but it is also very much an indication that it's time to check in, take your health seriously, and do what it takes to get back on track with your menstrual cycle.
Absolutely. These symptoms that your body experiences are really all signs, and there's signals that there's things happening beneath the surface that need your attention. And luckily, naturopathic doctors can help with that. So I'm going to dive into our next topic, the next common question that we get: why do I gain weight when I'm stressed? So I've been seeing a lot of hashtags and people on Instagram, Snapchat saying, what's happening? I'm gaining the quarantine 15, they're calling it. So aside from the obvious snacking that we might tend to be doing more of when we're at home, working from home, schedules are different, there's actually a response and a reaction that can contribute to that excess weight gain when you are stressed. So when your brain perceives a stressful event, or chronic, acute, however your body perceives that stress, the stress response is triggered. So this means that your adrenal glands start to release your stress hormones, epinephrine, and that cortisol that we've been talking about. These hormones then increase blood pressure, heart rate, and they cause glucose, specifically cortisol causes glucose from your liver to release into the bloodstream to provide energy for your body. When this happens, your digestive system actually slows or shuts down. So it's also common that when you're in a situation with increased stress or a highly stressful situation, you're going to have digestive symptoms as well. IBS might be heightened, changes in your bowel movements. All of these things can happen. If you notice you're more bloated, heartburn, these can all be signs of that cortisol overproducing as well. So then, once this happens, there's a cascade of events that occurs in your digestive system. So stress is something that we call an insult to your microbiome. And your microbiome is that population of bacteria that lives in you and lives on you and is truly a determinant of good health. So any alteration to that microbiome and that precious population of gut microbiota can cause a variety of symptoms. Specifically, when we have stress insulting our microbiome, we can then experience decreased satiety signals. So that means that your brain might not actually perceive when you're full as often. You can get increased circulation of short-chain fatty acids in the blood. We get generalized inflammation. So this can be picked up on blood work as well. We see it as an elevated high sensitivity C-reactive protein or an increased ferritin in some cases. We also get increased permeability of your intestinal lining. So this can lead to something that we call leaky gut. We get increased fat storage, so more adipose tissue building and more fat storage in our bodies. And of course, along with that, we get decreased fat burning. And we get irregular signaling of our gut hormones. So these are our incretins, insulin, and glucose, and the signaling that happens between them. So all to say, this is why you're more likely to gain weight during times of increased stress. So if weight loss is a goal, it's important to look at the whole picture. And a treatment plan should certainly include adrenal support, interventions to help regulate your hormones, blood sugar balance, and we can do that through diet, lifestyle, and supplementation. Do you girls have anything to add to that?
I've always thought it's been kind of interesting when we do get that release of fatty acids due to stress. We'll often deposit it around our organs, which obviously puts us at higher risk for, chronic diseases and heart attacks and all of that, fatty liver disease. So that's kind of a little extra tidbit.
Yeah. All right.
That's great. All right. So what does stress do to my immune system? So stress, there's good types of stress and bad types of stress. When you're immediately exposed to a stressor, your body releases the hormone cortisol that we've been talking about this whole time. So in short spurts, cortisol actually increases immunity slightly and limits inflammation. And so in a healthy person, the cortisol came up, you dealt with what needed to be dealt, and it had a time to come down and relax. The problem that we're seeing in our society more and more is a state of chronic stress. And what's happening here is over time, this excess of cortisol is contributing to increased inflammation. Increased inflammation as well as decreased lymphocytes. So lymphocytes are your white blood cells. They're your troops that you recruit when you're faced with infections like viruses. And having a reduction in your white blood cell count really makes you vulnerable to colds and flus at this time. And then, a long period of time of having this high stress, you're also more likely to have things like depression and anxiety. So you're presented with this overworked, overtired immune system. And then we're looking at conditions like lupus, fibromyalgia, IBD, arthritis. All of them are more likely in that type of a situation. So it's really important to intervene, get an assessment of your stress response, and see where you are. The sooner we can get to you and help you address these stressors in your lifestyle, help you with coping strategies, the less likely you are to experience these negative effects down the road. All right, and we can go to the next slide. This is one of those major studies that really demonstrated this. It looked at 300 different studies and put it all together, showing that this stress of a significant duration, so just a few days to a few months, all aspects of immunity were down. So, right now when we're looking at some of the viruses in our environment, it's important to think about things like breathing exercises to help bring your stress response down, open up your lungs, and get oxygen where it needs to go. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
I think you covered that beautifully.
Okay. All right. You can take the slide. So here is an example test result that is looking at just what the adrenal glands are producing, and is only looking at cortisol. So this is someone for whom your cortisol is actually totally flipped, where in the morning they're quite low and it's getting up at night. So we talked about that earlier. So this person actually does not have a problem falling asleep because they are so burnt out. They're able to just sleep and sleep. But typically, if someone had difficulty sleeping, that information would make sense. And so here, there are some lifestyle interventions that can be helpful. And that would be wake up in the morning and just taking a look at the morning sun. That's going to help your body produce the hormones it needs to do to help put your cortisol back in shape. Anyone who's a night shift worker, they're likely to have a curve like this. And they're likely to be experiencing the symptoms of burnout. that this patient was experiencing. So if you end up with a cortisol curve that looks like this, don't despair. There's so much we can do with herbs that are adaptogenic, with lifestyle habits, with even diet and how you eat, and we can help you normalize this to being in the green.
Awesome. So we hope that you guys enjoyed our little tidbit on stress and what we can see as symptoms in the body when we have that irregular and suboptimal cortisol response throughout the day. So we invite you to follow us. We'll link our social media handles in the next couple slides, and we'd love to hear from you, and we want to answer your questions. So feel free to reach out, let us know what you guys want to hear about, and we plan on doing more of these talks for you guys. Dr. Molly, you want to tell us?
Sure.
So.
So yeah, I'm Dr. Molly. I'm practicing currently in Colorado, and I have transitioned to a solely telemedicine-based practice. My favorite things to treat are things like PCOS, endometriosis. I see a lot of digestive concerns, autoimmune chronic disease, and then just my overall wellness patients who are looking to optimize their health. And yeah, my website's there, my Instagram handle, phone, and email address.
Awesome.
All right, so I'm practicing out in San Jose physically, and we've also primarily transitioned to being telemedicine right now with everything that's happening with the coronavirus, but we are available for some acute in-person appointments. So whether it's a gynecological concern or if it's a well child appointment, we're able to do that, and as well as blood work. So if you're in the San Jose area, definitely look me up and find me. I'm at Naturopathic Family Health. And that's my website, my Instagram handle, endometriosis doc. I'm really doing my best to put out as much content as I can to help people stay healthy from a lifestyle perspective during this global stress response. And my focus, what I really love treating, is endometriosis. And it's because it's such a big hitter disease. It's very complex. You've got the environmental exposures, the chronic infections, the diet, lifestyle piece, but also the hormone balancing. And so I really enjoy supporting women with this disease and using our natural integrative treatment approach, because the alternative there, the surgery, the medications, they don't deal with why you're having the endometriosis in the first place. So don't hesitate to reach out to me over Instagram, email. Looking forward to hearing from you guys.
Thank you, Dr. Shreya. And I am Dr. Maryellen Tedeschi. I am in Ontario, Canada, so I have 2 practice locations in both Hamilton and Burlington. At this time, obviously, I've moved my practice online, so I'm seeing patients virtually through telemedicine. What I love to treat, women's health, hormones, menopause, PMS, weight loss, thyroid concerns. I also see a lot of mom and babies. I love treating kids as well. I do a lot of skincare, facial rejuvenation, acupuncture, and I love to treat digestive health. So there's my Instagram, my phone number, and my email. So if you guys are in the Hamilton, Burlington, or Ontario area, feel free to reach out so we can talk about your health goals and how we can start to meet them. All right, so that is the end of our show. I'm just going to stop the screen share so you could see us. All right, so thank you guys so much for joining us. Let me just see if I can make this better. There we go. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. We hope you enjoyed. And as we said, feel free to give us your questions, and look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.